Spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of me to me. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dream. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun. It's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Harama B.
Peace, 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 peace and love in Islam family. I'd like to start off by saying love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, health, and wealth. Welcome to another edition of the BBT Book Club reading. It's Friday, our holy day as Moorish Americans, and I'm honored to present to you tonight another good piece of information that you can compare and contrast in your studies. I'm Noble Dantes, excited to tap in with you all tonight. Gratitude to everyone tuned in. Shout out to MorrisHaberdasher.com. That's MorrisHaberdasher.com. All your needs. Indeed. MyPDFBooks.com. That's MyPDFBooks with a Z.com. Reading funds, the mental. Also, shouts out to our very own tea company. That's Mayat Sons, the tea of teas, divinely prepared. Intro song, outro song, our very own Brian Hicks Bay of BHB Music. And we can't forget ALODesignPros.com, design your online business strategy. And BindedBooks.com for your rare and expensive bounded books. The site is down now. We'll be back up very, very soon. That's BindedBooks.com. Peace and love, family, again. I'm Noble Dantes with the mighty Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School, where we have presented plenty of content online, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, different pieces of information. We provide several classes, Saturday adapt class, Sunday school. Our tribe works out on the weekends. We do the BBT book club reading on Fridays. And today I'll be presenting. With the federal and state elections coming up very soon, this cycle has been, I would say, one for the books. With the Democrats and Republicans fighting like Crips and Bloods, with so much being spread, so much different information being spread. I think that we should direct ourselves to the basics of just American government, the form of American government, and just gain some wisdom. On that and how it was built. Because a lot of folks online are spreading different things and different pieces of information. And I think a lot of folks are confused with just involvement with everything. And sometimes it's good to just reveal pieces of information, just bring certain things back to our remembrance, so that we can navigate correctly and understand exactly what's happening. And today I have a book here, America Free, White, and Christian, that we'll be going over slightly, limited time tonight, but we'll make sure we get some of this information in us. America Free, White, and Christian. And we'll just start with the intro and do a little bit of chapter 1 and possibly reconvene. But I think this is good insight. The evidence and facts revealed in this material is intended to show the true legal foundations of America as to how and why it was legally established as a free nation, a white nation, and a Christian nation. And don't get too caught up with the words based on interpretations that you may already have. Due to a continuous and stealthy plan to either undermine or cover from public view the very legal principles upon which America was built, the necessity of this information became apparent. These fundamental principles can never be entrusted solely to those in government to guard and preserve. It is because the people have lost sight of these principles that America now faces its many perils and problems. Americans need to understand and continually adhere to those principles or fundamental principles that made America great. This position was once stated in Virginia's first Constitution. Section 15 reads, and I quote, that no free government or the blessings of liberty can be preserved to any people, but by a firm adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, frugality, and virtue, and by frequent recurrence to fundamental principles. We cannot expect these fundamental principles of our government to be sustained by just making them a one-time course of study. They need to be continually referred to and applied. It thus is actually a duty and a responsibility for each citizen to be informed of the legal and political matters that America was founded on. Not just going with this Democrat Republican thing and, we're doing this with the popular vote, and we think we know what's going on. We think we understand the government. We think we understand our relation to, but we don't. And that's why we present and we just study and we try to understand and we continue to study and source different information. This was well expressed by the Supreme Court of Utah, the Supreme Court of Utah. And it states, the man entrusted with the high, difficult, and sacred duties of an American citizen should be informed and enlightened. He should have sufficient intelligence to discriminate right from wrong in political matters and should possess a feeling of moral obligation sufficient to cause him to adopt the right. This material is presented to help the American citizen be more informed and enlightened as to the true legal foundations America was built upon. With this information, many of the concepts that have been passed off as being the American way or part of the America process will be proven to be false and without any validity. For example, the concept that the nation's religion, Christianity, was always separated from politics and government is one of the many outright falsehoods of America's foundations that has been created and promoted by anti-American elements in the media, government, and educational fields. It can be seen that Americans are not only faced with the problem of dealing with ignorance in their country's fundamental legal principles, but they also have to contend with various lies and distortions regarding these principles. Thus, a recurrence of these principles is especially important to these times in which darkness prevails and where error feeds on error and ignorance breeds ignorance. We thus need to realize the dangers of losing sight of the fundamental principles America was founded on. As the scripture puts it, if the foundations be destroyed, what can be righteous do? If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Psalms chapter 11, verse 3. Our political system will break down only when and where the people for whom and by whom it is intended to be carried on shall fail to receive a sound education in its principles and in its historical developing, illustrating its application to and under changing conditions. Okay, so we're going to get into meats and potatoes of some of the first chapter here. Free America, only in America. Islam and love again to all tuned in. We just went over the introduction of law book that we're going over. Is explaining the foundations of America. You may think that you know, but a lot of times we find that we just don't, and it's always good to just sort of understand more and more about what we say we're a part of, and just understand that more and actually how to navigate through. So peace and love to those tuned in to the BBT Friday night, which is our holy day book club reading. Chapter 1, Only in America. It is often spoken that America is a free country. And we might start to understand some things here in this chapter. So we'll read and we'll listen and we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. But we wanna definitely listen to some of this here, especially if you've never heard this before. It is often spoken that America is a free country without understanding why or what free actually means in a real and legal sense. This is evident by the incorrect usage of the word when also used in referring to the free world. No other nation throughout history, with the exception of the Israelites prior to their adoption of a monarchy, can truly and legally be classified as a free nation. There are two distinct attributes of the nations of America and early Israel that set them apart from others as being free nations. These would be their godly laws. They were governed by, and the fundamental rights and freedoms that their people possess. These two attributes are intrinsically interrelated and connected, as will be shown. A free people have an inclination to support godly laws and government, and such a system is favorable to liberty and individual rights. Only in America was there a legal foundation established with a godly system of laws by and for free people, thus allowing America to be classified as a free country. The fact that some of these attributes have apparently been lost does not change the legal foundations of America in this matter. This is not the subject matter of concern here, except to say that the reasons which can be attributed to any loss of freedoms in America's government system or in its people are quite simple, and there are no different from the reasons Israel lost their freedoms. So why were the freedoms lost? The loss of freedom in Israel did not come about by alien forces marching in and asserting its power over them. It did not come about because of defects in the system of government, nor did it come about by corruption in its leaders, judges, etc. The nation of Israel lost its freedoms by the voluntary assent of the people to surrender them through their desire to have a king over them, as recorded in Scripture, 1 Samuel 8, chapter 8, verses 4 through 5. The nation of Israel lost its freedom by the voluntary assent of the people to surrender them through their desire to have a king over them, as recorded in the scriptures. uh, 1 Samuel verse 8, First Samuel chapter 8, verses 4 through 5. And we could pull it up and read 1 Samuel chapter 8, verses 4 through 5. Islam at love. Just a second as we pull. I'm headed, but you know how the internet is sometimes. Okay. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." Whatever freedoms Americans have lost have likewise come about by the people's voluntary assent to surrender them. It is that simple. No rights or freedoms have ever been taken away, but as stated, it is not the intent here to show how or why freedoms have been lost, but rather to show the legal foundations and attributes of America that made them possible. This knowledge is necessary because the loss or surrender of freedoms in both nations previously mentioned were due to a similar national problem, the lack of knowledge of its people. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. As stated earlier, the term free nation is not clearly understood, as evidenced by the careless use of the word in referring to the free world. If we examine the other nations of the world, we find none except America are truly and legally free. In every country of the world throughout history, people have been directly subject to arbitrary rules, edicts, or laws by some sort of king, queen, prince, dictator, president, ruler, chancellor, tribal leader, chieftain, emperor, governor, pope, monarchy, or assembly. In America, some of the above terms are used in its government, like president, that's used here, the governor or assembly, but are unlike those found in other governments of the world. For instance, a governor under the Roman Empire, although limited by certain rules and orders of the empire, was in a position to arbitrarily make laws, to execute all laws, and to judge the violation of any law. The separation of powers established in America made it possible for executive officials to exercise judicial or legislative powers. Okay, so stick with me, hang with me there. Like I said, a lot of us may not have heard things like this in social studies class in middle school, unless you took a government class in high school. So with the elections coming up, it's always good. We might think that we truly understand our position and our relation to, the voting or popular vote, or, we may, really be confident and believe that we understand what's happening around us, especially like now in this time of year with the federal state elections. So, we try to get through this to get a better understanding so we understand properly how to navigate and how we're currently navigating. Parliament in England is actually an assembly. However, the powers and jurisdiction of Parliament are absolute and cannot be confined either by causes or persons within bounds. It has sovereign and uncontrollable authority in making and repealing laws. It can alter and establish the religion of the country. Under the Constitution, Congress was allowed 22 grants of power. Beyond that, it is legally a powerless entity. You didn't know? It says under the Constitution, Congress was allowed 22 grants of power. Beyond that, it is legally a powerless entity. There were also 70 restrictions against Congress to further confine its powers. However, the Parliament of Great Britain is possessed of all legislative powers whatsoever. It can enact ordinary statutes and it can pass laws strictly fundamental. Not with our legislators. Our state legislators and Congress cannot enact fundamental law. It can enact an ordinary statutes and it can pass laws strictly fundamental. Not so with our legislators. Our state legislators and Congress cannot enact fundamental law. In America, only the people can do this through a convention. You know, like the conventions, and we've seen that word for sure with our misnomer America politics, which Republican conventions and your Democratic conventions. So in America, only the people can do this. And they do this, which is enact fundamental law through a convention in which they exercise their sovereignty, in which the legislators must abide by. In some of the so-called free nations, such as France and South Africa, they have elected presidents. The powers they possess are somewhat ill-defined, now have narrow limitations and control many functions of government. And the elected presidents of the third world nations, the situation is worse still. Here again, the president of the United States possesses only a certain number of well-defined powers and is limited from exercising any others. We have no need to go further and explain those governments such as monarchs, oligarchies, aristocracies, military dictatorships. They are all well known for their tyranny, oppression, and economic burdens they inflict on the people. The inherent errors and oppressions of all these various forms of government in world history were well known and understood by the framers of the U.S. Constitution. Under the guidance of divine providence, they were able to avoid the errors and oppression or oppressive measures of past governments, creating one unique in its measures of freedom. As a result, our Constitution became the first permanent written constitution of any independent nation. And now it is the oldest written document of any modern republic. The source of political power, both the state constitutions and U.S. Constitution, are similar in structure and that they are the result of the will of the people. Those who occupy political offices under them are limited and restricted to fixed functions and powers, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Some of the common attributes of both the state and national constitutions relating to political powers are as follows. The constitutions are ordained and established by the people. The Constitution establishes a republican form of government with three separate and independent but co-equal political branches of government. The political offices are created by the Constitution, and officers are elected pursuant to the Constitution. And the duties and powers are limited by the nature of the Constitution and the inherent rights of the people. The unique feature An American form of government thus lies in its source of political power, where other governments are self-instituted or derive their source of political power from the state political party or some man. The source of political power in the American form of government is the people. The Declaration of Independence had indirectly made reference to this premise, and it was directly expressed in many of the original state constitutions. And I could quote some of those where you will find this. In 1776, the Constitution of Virginia, Section 2 states that all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people, that magistrates are their trustees and servants, and at all times amenable to them. The Constitution of North Carolina, 1776, Section 1, that all political power is vested in and derived from the people only. Section 2, that the people of this state ought to have the sole and exclusive right of regulating the internal government and police thereof. The Constitution of Maryland, 1776, Section 1, that all government of right originates from the people, is founded and compact only, and instituted solely for the good of the whole. The Constitution of Georgia, 1777, we therefore, the representatives of the people, from whom all power originates, and for those government is intended. And then the Constitution of New Hampshire, 1784, it says that all power, Section 8, all power residing originally in and being derived from the people, all the magistrates and officers of government are their substitutes and agents, and at all times accountable to them. The Soviet Union also has a constitution, and its government is instructed or structured as a republic. And we hear about republic a lot, Republican form of government, but then there's this Democrat, and we're trying to figure out, where did it come from? What is it? But here we'll speak more on the republic. The Soviet Union also has a constitution, and its government is structured as a republic. However, the source of political power lies with an elite group which established the Communist Party, whose membership is restricted to 5% of the population, and who control the government. It is they who wrote the Soviet Constitution of 1936. The Constitution has many good sounding declarations that give it the appearance of a free government. And for example, we'll read Article 3. All power in the USSR belongs to the working people of town and country, as represented by the Soviets of Working People's Deputies. Article 125, in conformity with the interests of the working people, and in order to strengthen the socialist system, the citizens of the USSR are guaranteed by law freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of street possessions, etc. Article 136 states that elections of deputies are equal. Each citizen has one vote. All citizens participate in election on an equal footing. Who possess the political power in the Soviet Union? The working people of town and country, or the elite communists who ordained and established the Constitution. Quite obviously, this elite group does. The power referred to in Article 3 is a power granted to the people by them, as are the rights mentioned in Article 125. While the people vote in the Soviet Union, they did not ordain and establish the organic law. The people are only pawns who are allowed to participate in the game created by their masters. Thus, there are no checks and controls which are necessary for a people to be free. as expressed here. And I quote, "For who are a free people? Not those over whom government is reasonably and equitably exercised, but those who live under a government so constitutionally checked and controlled that the proper provision is made against its being otherwise exercised." The fact that a country has elections by the people does not in itself make the people the source of the power. I think as it just comes back down to our elections and federal, state elections and different things that are happening next week, that's a statement there that we must look at and continue to research. The fact that a country has elections by the people does not in itself make the people the source of the power. Members of the parliament in England, for example, are elected by the people. However, parliament was not a creation of the people, as are the state legislators or Congress in America. Parliament's origin was partly from a grant of the crown and partly by certain elitists and noblemen in its earlier stages. Through the centuries, it has undergone a transformation in its structure and power, some of which was on the part of Parliament itself. The legislative assemblies in America cannot legally change its structure or broaden its power. Any change in power can only be by the amendment or another constitution. Thus, the source of power in America is the people. In England, it lies where it always has been, in the sovereign. Source of law. Another important aspect, if the American form of government is the source of law upon which it is based, there are and ever have been only two sources of law, which any government can or has been based upon. And those two forms are divine law or human law. Divine law or human law. America is unique as the only nation whose fundamental law was derived from and based upon divine law. In England, there was a system of law whose source originated from the scriptures known as the common law, but there was also a source of human law that existed, which often put the common law in check or adulterated it with human edicts. With each king, the common law became more and more polluted. The common law gained supremacy from time to time, such as in 1215 with the Magna Carta, but the human influence left its imprint on it through changes and additions in many of its precepts. The early settlers brought the common law with them to America, but the providence of God, they had the wisdom to adopt only those maxims that were applicable to their ideas of a godly government. Justice Story had pointed this out in the following U.S. Supreme Court decision, and I quote, "We take it to be a clear principle that the common law enforced at the immigration of our ancestors is deemed the birthright of the colonies, unless so far as it is inapplicable to their situation or repugnant to their other rights and privileges. The common law of England is not to be taken in all respects to be that of America. Our ancestors brought with them its general principles and claimed it as their birthright, but they brought them or with them and adopted only a portion which was applicable to their situation. The English common law was in a sense purified and purged of its human element in America by adopting only those laws that had not been modified by an overzealous monarchy. The English common law that the colonists felt was worth preserving was supplemented by laws and compacts they had enacted. Particularly, every colonial law enacted in early America had its source from the Bible. This becomes quite evident from a study of colonial law. The common law adopted and the colonial laws enacted became the fundamental law of the United States, which our form of government is based upon. The colonists knew that free men could never long remain free when subject to arbitrary laws of rulers, kings, elitists, etc. They thus used the scriptures as a guide for their laws and governments so they could remain free. History had taught them that free men could not be made subject to the arbitrary laws of men except by their own consent. This basic principle was expressed as follows. The only reason I believe why a free man is bound by human laws is that he binds himself. This again explains the simple reason why the free man of early Israel and of this day in America have lost their freedom. They voluntarily have in some manner or form. Bound themselves to a system of human law. And don't let that trip you up. We just continue to read. Free men can only exist in governments founded on divine law, as the only other system of law is based on the will of men. It has been said that ours is a government of laws and not of men. If it were a government of men, like England, France, or the Soviet Union, we then would be subject to that human law. The U.S. Supreme Court has expressed this as follows, and I quote, "It has been wisely and amply said that this is a government of laws and not of men, that there is no arbitrary power located in any individual or body of individuals, but that all in authority are guided and limited by those provisions which the people have, through the organic law, declared shall be the measure and scope of all control exercised over them. All nations throughout history have been a government of men where the people are subject to these arbitrary rules and laws of a king, chancellor, president, assembly, etc. Since God is the only source of moral law, human law prevails wherever man is supreme above this law. The American system of government is one based on divine laws, which were embraced and secured by the U.S. Constitution. This is the organic law referred by the Supreme Court. This law creates the offices of government, defines and limits its powers, and favors laws of divine origin to be enacted and enforced. These unique attributes of our law and government has made Americans free, but only up to the point where they have not bound themselves to human laws. And with that being said, I'm going to wrap right there. We went to about 40 minutes tonight. I had a whole nother video that was a little bit longer, but had the entire video muted. So we had to redo it. Had limited time this go around, but we still went through some things here. I think it's, we must remember from this reading, America is unique as the only nation whose fundamental law was derived from and based upon divine law. So divine law, those who are here, our people, Moorish, divine law, something within us, within ourselves first, that divine law. And the fact that a country has elections by people or by the people does not in itself make the people the source of that power. Okay. Thought it was necessary to go through to try to understand somewhat the American government, since online you may have so many people talking about it these days, and some of the things that they're saying is, you have falsehood and truth and everything, but a lot of us are confused and misguided and misguiding on just the overall environment the overall relations of the citizens, the so-called citizens, and the popular vote, and just your participation and involvement in it. So hopefully with the playback on some of the paragraphs that we highlighted here tonight, we understand a little bit more exactly what it's saying by the people, and who holds the power and authority in certain scenarios as it relates to voting and everything that we're kind of experiencing now. We experience it every 4 years. And everybody, acts crazy with this Republican and Democrat, BS. We don't understand a lot, like you were saying, about our people being lost due to a lack of knowledge. And, a lot of us are giving up our own birthrights, as it was stating. It's just because we're agreeing to something outside of ourselves, when, we have so much within us first, and we must follow that divine law. So more research and study on this is definitely going to be had within the coming days, as we wind down to these federal or state elections. So just understand, law and policy is very important. Law and policy is very important. Make your voices heard. Just make sure we're navigating correctly at all times. We making sure we're navigating correctly at all times. Please follow our school and temple, the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. Saturday, Sunday on our YouTube, Facebook pages. Saturday, we have workout. Please also tap in for our ADAPT class. Another workout on Sunday, and Kyrie will hit you with our Sunday school message this Sunday. But this was our BBT Friday night, Holy Day, book club reading, America Free, White, and Christian. What type of government is America based on? What was its foundations? We dove into a little bit of that tonight. Just understand your position, understand where you are, and understand that you need to be a part of something. You need to be a part of something for any of this to make sense for you. So with that being said, I'd like to just read our map as we exit. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Shalom Malakim, Ayah Ash'ayah, Islam, Amen, peace, light, and illumination. Shalom. 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 Until tomorrow. Gratitude for all those in attendance who made it live, and gratitude for all those We'll tap in tomorrow or watch it later on and tap in with the BBT tomorrow. Peace and love. We out. Islam.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seed sowing, harvest reaping, man of me or me. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing.
Islam and love. I'm not sure if that last part was muted or not. I've been pretty bad with the mute button today. But if so, just peace and love to everybody. Gratitude for all those who were in attendance today, tonight, live, and all those who will tap in later on. We'll catch y'all this weekend for ADAPT class and Sunday school. Peace and love.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seed sowing, harvest reaping, man of me or me. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dream. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun. It's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living